So here's what we got going on with this interesting build. So we have a 4R70W, I believe removed from a 98 Explorer with a 5.0. It's going in a mid 70s Bronco that's a factory 302 V8 5 liter with, I believe, a 4-speed stick. Don't quote me on that though, but it's a stick shift. He's wanting to go automatic. So there's a tranny, advanced adapters. Got to tear that apart. Here's your tail housing, close to factory mounting, new output shaft, new input for the transfer case, the bearing retainer for the transfer case, bearing and seal. So this is machined very, very nicely to fit very snug in the adapter, you know, for lineup purposes. Look how precise that is. Amazing. And of course, these do split together. We already checked that. Bam. Now this is to put it to a D20 transfer case, or the Dana 20. So, there you go. Now this project has been, he's been after me about it for a while, and he's finally got finances in order. So, the kit's here. The transmission, again, the reason we chose this, if you look at the bell on this, it's the 2-bolt starter, like all the 289, 302s, some 351s, the full .9 inline 6. It is a 98, best I remember, 4R70W, 4-speed, overdrive, lockup converter. It was working when pulled from the vehicle. So, some of the Explorer 5.0s with the 4R70W were rear-wheel drive, some were all-wheel drive. Doesn't matter which one you get, because obviously you got to change the output, which is the last thing to come out. So, this will be the teardown video, and let's get going. So first thing, we want to pull all the stuff off the outside. So we're going to remove the linkage. I don't like to just hammer on the nut without holding the linkage, because I've seen a lot of people break them depending on how nasty they are. The electrical connector bracket here from the original Explorer is not going to be used. So we do not need that. He's getting a standalone computer, so we'll have to add, I think he's going EFI on this too, in which case it'll simplify a lot of this. This is a fully electronic unit. We remove the speed sensor, which of course, this thing looks like she's been sitting for a little while. Yeah. We'll soak that bad boy and see what happens here in a little bit. And anytime I've had one that's sat, especially outside, I mean, I always put all the electronics on them. It's just stupid to try to reuse a lot of this stuff. Prendle, trans rain sensor. Alright, on the other side, cooler lines obviously were cut when they pulled this thing, which we'll have to make cooler lines anyhow for his Bronco. Wow, there's actually Stuff built up all the way through the fitting there. Some insect. Gosh darned it. Yeah, see, check that out. Plugged, but open on that end. At least it didn't get all the way into the pump. Bless their heart. So this is going, it's a mild engine in this Bronco, so we're not looking to get carried away. Heat shield for the electronics. Try to straighten that out because we definitely want to reuse that. And this is the 9 wire. I think there's like an 11 and a 9. I think. We'll knock that out from the inside. This was the factory bracket they put on these things for the exhaust system they run on those Explorers. Which obviously we're not going to need. Let's get our mount off. Big old 3/4 inch. That is junk. Wild offset mount they run on the Explorers. Of course, we won't need that. We have a different mount configuration on the other. So, get our tail housing off. Series of 10 millimeters. And even if you had a good rebuilt transmission, that shaft is last in line, so you still got to pretty much pull all your assemblies. Still a pretty big job for most people, but not terrible. Ring on this gun sucks. So, 4-wheel drive tail housing not being reused. Alrighty, so front we have a series of 10 millimeter bolts on the pump. The thing to note about AODE or the 4R70W is the valve body has to come off to get your servos released to be able to disassemble these things, because of the way that the band wraps for overdrive on the reverse drum and all. Fluid coming out of it's nice and rich. So that's a plus. Hopefully won't have too many surprises. But time will tell. Let's see here, get all these. A little bit of debris, but nothing super holy shit. Filter. Let's see. EPC's down by the linkage. Single one up here closest to the detent is the TCC, shift solenoids, and this is your fluid temp sensor. Now on the valve bodies on these, there are 10 millimeter and there are 8 millimeters. The 10 millimeters hold the plate and the solenoids to the valve body. The 8 millimeters hold the valve body assembly to the case. Those are the ones you want to pull. So, I like to start on the outside. They're all different length bolts. So you do have to be a little mindful. When you go putting one of these back together, the longers go through the plate. There's a bracket on the EPC. And we're just knocking out main assemblies, you know, the sub-assemblies basically. I'll do a video later on actual, you know, building of this thing. So, there's your complete valve body. Next, we need to get our servos and accumulators out. Little one in the corner, usually you can just, with the screwdriver. Copaesthetics, we're good there. This is a molded accumulator, which I always replace. Just slides out. The big one is reverse. Usually it's not terrible to get out. Usually. These are all retained by snap rings. The cover's molded. I always change them. It's kind of stupid not to. You definitely don't want an issue. Grab that or not. Here's my other ones. Yeah, the rubber's soft, but thing to note on the reverse, if you look close, there's little bitty grooves. You might be able to see that. This one's a 2 groove, which gives you the length of the pin. And of course, if you pull the roll pin and the nut, you can get the EPC out. We're just trying to do a quick run through to show what you got to get to change a shaft. Overdrive servo. This one has a lot of tension. Putting them in is a different story than taking them out. Taking them out, I usually just try to very carefully without getting stupid. No, come on, damn it. Very wise to replace this retaining snap ring. See a lot of these break on the later units. Yeah, see, this has the earlier 2-piece servo. You're supposed to update that as well. So, now the valve body and the servos are out. You don't have to pull this, say you're just swapping the shaft, but in this case this one's getting built, so we'll go ahead just for the sake of my time. It's got to be done anyhow. Ah, you punk. The springs in this are really, really long, so you got to really watch. Get a better angle here where I can get some force on this. Almost looks like whoever built this before put the ring in upside down. It's still got eyelets, but one side's a little rounder than the other. This one's got the white on the top. And white on the bottom. Interesting. Alright, so the pump, 2 holes are threaded. You have to use a puller to remove the pump. So let me obtain puller. Which is a slide hammer with adapter. Thread it into the hole. There you go. There's no way to access with the screwdriver through the valve body. So there's your pump. Gasket. This is the intermediate piston, which if anybody has done, like say a Turbo 350, will be slightly familiar with this kind of design. Set of clutches being applied off the pump. Thing to keep in mind on these pistons, I bet you they didn't even do this right. This one had a intermediate sprag failure before. Because you can see all the chewed up spots. And on the pump stator itself, give me a second here and I'll show you. Bolts chewed up. So if we look close, we can see all the chew marks. And I can show you what that's from. I could use some pump gears, but the pump looks okay. So this one-way sprag for intermediate, pull all this out. So these are your intermediate clutches right here, which we can see how hot the steels have been. You can see all the hot spots on them, common. That's your intermediate sprag. The idea is it rolls one way, locks the other. They're real bad about the snap ring and this whole back end coming off. and it just chews a bunch of crap up. No shock or surprise there. There's a company that makes a snap ring retainer to keep it from blowing off, which is pretty good. So there is, down to the drums: overdrive band, input drum, or forward clutch drum. And then this is the reverse clutches. So battery's about to die, so I will swap batteries and we'll carry on.